put that on for me. Let that be the beginning for real.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the podcast. My name is Silas.
And I'm Aaron.
And I'm Zane.
Today,
Good morning.
well, good morning.
Good morning, Silas.
I'm a little grouchy this morning.
Yeah, we know.
Dad started off this morning by asking me why I wasn't ready when I was ready.
If you saw his hair and his face, you might think differently. But that's
I'm
all right.
wearing a hat.
Thank the Lord.
That's why God
But
invented
what about
hats.
the face? What about the face?
What about it? What do you want me to change about my face? I look like you.
Maybe shave. I don't know. All right.
Okay, I really should
Today.
shave, but it takes a long time to shave.
Oh, yeah. It's such work.
No,
I've
it
had the
looks good.
same razor since I was 14, and it does not work very well.
Wait, the same razor?
It's an electric razor, but it still doesn't work very
that thing
well.
could be tearing
Like a
up
new
your
one, buddy.
face by now.
Yeah, it takes like 20 minutes to shave.
Yeah, shouldn't.
Hence, I didn't.
I wouldn't shave either then.
Yeah, exactly. Shave once a week. I also don't
I only
really
have
grow
like 20
facial hair.
hairs. All right, here we go.
Walker, if you're listening,
That's because you're an American Indian like me. We have indigenous blood in us, according to Papa.
I've actually heard we're more Italian.
No. I don't even
I'd
like, I don't
believe
even
the
like
Italian
Italian
part.
food very much.
Oh, well, then it must be wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, I got a protein pasta yesterday. Anyway, jumping into the meat of today. If you were here last week, you heard us talk about how do you know when your kids are ready to date? How do you set them up with the right attitude to go into dating? And how do you sort of get on the same page about how that relationship is going to look like and what's going to happen? If you haven't heard that, highly recommend listening to episode 1. While you're over there, give us a like and subscribe. Episode number 2 now is now your kids
Follow-up.
are actually dating, or they just asked a girl out. How do you parent that relationship wisely?
Yeah, and I think it's more than just, helping them create boundaries, which I think is important to talk about. But
It's more
It's-
about control.
it's about control, and it's about controlling
my kids.
every detail about the relationship. No, it's more about helping your kid figure out who they should be looking for, right? So we've kind of talked about how to prepare them for this moment, and then today we'll dive into maybe what some of the people in this room have experienced or done. But I think one of the main conversations I want to have today is talking about how to equip your child to be looking for the person that's right for them, that kind of matches their mission in life, matches their strengths or weaknesses. Because I think, that's probably the biggest fear for a parent when their child starts to date is who are they bringing home? Who are they interested in? Who are they wanting to pursue for marriage? Because that person is going, if all goes well, then that person becomes a member of the family and becomes the parent of your grandchildren someday. So it's a really important decision. Scary decision. And I thought we could start with 2 Corinthians 6, because I think this is an interesting verse. I hear a lot of people use this. And
Before you read,
yeah,
do we need a disclaimer?
yes,
The disclaimer is this podcast is thoughts, right? It's to get you down that track of thinking. It's not this is how you do it.
yeah,
Because every family is going to have like different scenarios, different number of children, different reasons, different motivations. You're choosing, like we said in a prior episode, you're choosing the hills you're going to die on. And it's like all of this is like Christian gray area. You can do not whatever you want, obviously, because there is stewardship issue here. But this is definitely like we're going to give some thoughts. Think about it as you develop your own system, right?
yeah, and so that's the main thing we want to push on this podcast in general with every
Yeah.
topic is intentionality, right? Think through these things. These are the things we've seen or the things we've done, but it doesn't mean it's the only way to do it.
And we're going to give you thoughts that we hear like from other people we've counseled, from the Future Men students, because they all come in with, they're, typically 16, 17, 18. Many of them have been, so to speak, dating. And we will share a lot of things that come out of that, because the age of your kids right now, those of you who are listening, it probably falls in that range. And it's good to hear some like, okay, well, here's kind of where that road could lead. Be ready, right? Or here's some things to be watching for. Be ready. And again, just take all this as, warning, so to speak, or just think about it. All right, what's your verse? 1 Corinthians something.
1 Corinthians or 2 Corinthians 6, verse 14. Do not be unequally yoked with unbelievers, for what partnership has righteousness with lawlessness, or what fellowship has light with darkness? And I think I've heard this verse used in the context not just of don't marry an unbeliever, But don't marry somebody that is unequally yoked to you, meaning like in their spiritual walk, in the direction they're heading in life. So first, I just kind of wanted to talk about that. What are your guys' thoughts on the application of that verse? Sure. Do you think it's that broad of an application? Do you think he's talking specifically about believers and unbelievers here, or is there a wider principle?
Oh, I'll go.
I would ask you chip in first, because you had like with Ryan Knight over at CEVO, right? I think maybe a little more like Christian kids caring and asking questions to leadership. Did you experience any of that when you were at CEVO, or some of those conversations, or no?
About being unequally yoked?
Sort of, yeah. Like this idea that Zane's asking.
Well, first of all, let me just define the terms here, because I was having a conversation the other day where someone was thinking unequally yoked meant this isn't a joke. Like when you have an egg with double yolks and one of them is bigger than the other.
I use this.
That is not what this means. This means when they used to harvest their fields, they would have two oxen, yoked together, basically attached to this big piece of wood, and they have to pull together. So if one of them is way smaller, way bigger than the other one, bad things happen. They get in fights. Nothing gets done right.
Not fair to the animals.
And I think we take it in the way Paul's is saying it, which is that, you should be in covenant with someone who is also in covenant with God, right? Because otherwise, what's the standard? You both have different ones, and that doesn't really work in a marriage. I'm having a hard time putting together my thoughts today. But I think when you ask about it wider, I also think it can refer to because you always had us think through when we were growing up, what's your calling in life? Like you had a kid who wanted to be a missionary. You had a kid who's like, okay, well, I might want to be a pastor, or I might want to be an Air Force pilot. And you have to think, when you're looking for a spouse, your spouse needs to be aware, or your potential future spouse needs to be aware of these goals, and think through what will that actually look like for me marrying into that and attaching myself to that for the rest of my life, and am I okay with that? And like I think of one of our friends, shout out Micah, if you're listening out there, Micah, feels very called to be a missionary, and he just got engaged, but that's a conversation they have to have had where he's like, hey, I'm planning on spending most of my life away from my family overseas. And we have another friend who is a full-time missionary in Indonesia in like an actual cannibalistic tribe. And well, I don't know, but that's the word I would use.
The buzzword.
But it's like, that's crazy to ask somebody to tie yourself to that. So when it talks about, I think the obvious question and answer here is that yes, it's talking about Christians. And yes, you should definitely marry a Christian. But I think going one step further, when you're talking about teaching your kids discernment, it involves a lot of that conversation as well.
100%. And when we talk to the boys that have, come into our, daughters, or our daughters are looking for young men or whatever, or our sons are looking for wives, it's always that. It's like the Bible tells, in Genesis 2, and then part of Genesis 3, it talks about like the whole idea of, a man has a wife, it's a good thing, right? You're looking for this helpmeet. And my thoughts are always, well, if you don't know what you're doing, it's going to be tough to be finding this helpmeet, which is one of the reasons why we say, unless you're ready to get, when you're ready for marriage, you're ready for dating.
Yeah.
And that's just, it's our hill, whatever. But the point is, if you're ready for marriage, you should be knowing what you're doing, right? And then she knows what she's getting into. And God changes our plans. I totally get that. And my wife and I, we've had 2 or 3 pretty serious changes over the years since we've been married, as far as like what state we're living in, sort of what we're doing, but like we had enough general idea, I guess. She knew what she was buying into when she was going to be the helpmeet of, Aaron Boldman. So Zane, your thing, unequally yoked, could mean, I think first of all, 100% does mean, you don't marry an unbeliever. And I would say be very cautious as parents on that one, to be really strict on your kids' friendships. Because they can say, because I used to do this. We do that thing called missionary dating, right? Well, I'm dating girls, and they're not Christians, but they could be, right?
I'll save them.
Yeah, well, exactly. And sometimes it actually turns out that way. Like I dated a girl named Mary Quinn, and if you're out there, Mary Quinn, shout out. I'm glad you're listening to the podcast. I doubt it.
Mary Quinn, you cannot come on the podcast.
But she she became a Christian, and my mom really liked her a lot. She was a neat girl, but it's like, we broke up pretty quickly. I mean, maybe, I don't know how long we dated.
After she became a Christian, I'm done.
Yeah, well, never mind. It works, missionary dating. But it's like, do you run the risk? It's an enormous risk of when you date, you're emotionally letting yourself become attached to this person. You fall in love. And when you fall in love, it's like you become blind to the things, or I would say maybe your rationale gets weaker, right? We could go into how the brain works, but it's like, just believe me for now. Your reasoning skills go out the window. And your love relationship emotions start taking control of the steering wheel. It can be really hard to leave when you're in love. So
And
you'll
I think-
justify anything.
And I think if your kids come back at this with like, well, you just want me to have my whole life figured out, like, how am I supposed to do that? I'm only 18.
Right.
And that's not the point. The point isn't that you have to have every detail of, I'm going to be a nurse, I'm going to work full time at this hospital, I'm going to have a house in this neighborhood. It's you have a basic idea of where you're going. Otherwise, it's like if you went to apply for a job and you go through the whole interview process, you're like, what am I going to be doing? They're like, well, we don't know yet. We actually don't even have a business, but we're thinking about maybe starting one. We don't know what it looks like at all. And it's like, well, that's
We
not
don't
fair
do that
to you.
with anything else in life.
Yeah.
We don't do that with the cars we purchase. We don't do that with, like you said, jobs or home purchases. But we do it with our spouses. It's like, wow, the most important thing we're going to get involved in, we just hope for the best because she's cute or because he's, so charming. And it's like, well,
Got
okay.
a 6-pack.
Those things are fleeting, as the Bible says, right? Beauty is deceiving. And I think it goes both ways. It's not just men to women, but women to men as well. So, yeah, being unequally yoked, you kind of need to know what you're getting into. So, anyway.
Yeah, I really like what you said about not just who they're dating, but who their friends are.
Yeah.
Because, as I was kind of reading through this verse, I noticed it's not specifically talking about marriage. And I think the way it's used often is in the context of marriage. But it's talking about a believer shouldn't be yoked to an unbeliever in a broader sense, I think.
It's like owning a business together.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, so if you think about the metaphor there, it's like Silas was saying, the oxen in the field, they're yoked together on mission, right? Like they're doing this. This is their job. This is their mission. They're doing it together. So I think that's kind of the broader principle here, and a lot of people apply it to marriage because it does apply, but I think it applies to a lot of different relationships.
100%.
Yeah.
So again, this is one of those weird things where we live in a culture where we're unequally yoked like crazy. I think of everybody probably listening to this podcast, probably almost every single person listening is unequally yoked in a sense to who their boss is.
Yeah.
The men are employed by guys who maybe they're not believers and they have no Christian agenda. So sometimes when a father wants to be home for his kids or something is going on and the boss is like, no, you need to be at work. Or a mom has a baby, right? She wants to spend some more time with the baby, but the boss is like, no, I need you back in at work, right? It's like it's a hard pull because they're not on the same page. Right. And I get that. And we're not saying quit your job and like that. It's like you got to figure those things out because again, these are hills you choose to die on. But it's like, but they have ramifications. Mm-hmm. You have some control of the hill of your children's dating world. But I don't think you have it because we experienced this with our oldest son, and he did a great job. And Colt, if you're listening, I'm surprised you're listening, but I love you.
Shout out, Colt.
You're a good man. But we were trying to figure it out as he was wanting to date and was in the middle of the process. And he was trying really hard to listen and really hard to honor the family. And it was tough because we were literally sort of winging it, which is dumb. The better thing to do is go through this when the kids are young, raise them up thinking, okay, this is, hey, in the Bowman family, this is how we do it. And whether they agree or not, their expectations are at least set and it's more correct and it doesn't feel so shocking and knee-jerk reaction and cause chaos for everybody, but especially for the kids because they're trying to honor mom and dad, and I think, and he was, but it's tough because you're talking about one of the strongest emotional, tumultuous things in a kid's life, and at a time where they're going through probably the end of puberty at least, so they're still, dealing with that, and it's hard. So the sooner you can get some type of a game plan for your family, the better off you're going to be. So what other specific questions or tracks here?
Well, and you say a game plan, but I mean, I've known you guys for a long time, and I think through the years that game plan has changed. Yep. So it's not just, we came up with our system and our system works. But as you kind of like learn, as you grow, it's like, well, we learn new things and we want, because the goal isn't to have this standard. The goal is to do its best for your kids, right? So as you learn, as you grow, things have to change.
So like it's the same thing with the business model, right? So at Future Men, for example, we always say every Tuesday, which is our directors meetings, we could walk away with new policies. We could walk away with chucked old policies because honestly, we're the leaders. And if it isn't working or it seems harmful, Why do we keep doing it? Right? That's dumb. Well, in families, we kind of like stick to our guns sometimes. And like even this week, we've had some discussion on some of the older kids who went through like, the courtship process in our family, or like, oh, it's different with the new kids, or the latest kids going through the system. I'm like, yeah, you're right. Because, we want to be better. We want to learn, not like we're getting tired and we're giving up, but like there's things that we learn. I mean, and I hate to say it, but like from Silas, your dating experience, right? It's like, okay, there's lessons that we can be better parents. We didn't even think about this angle. So now we are, and we want to like better parent our, the kids coming through the line. So again, those of you who are listening, some of you have 1 or 2 kids. Okay. There's gonna be a lot more. I think it'd be easier in some ways because you're not necessarily setting a precedent for the kids coming up the ranks. Right. And if you make some mistakes, or it just seems like it's a little more forgiving, maybe. If you have a bunch of kids, yeah, you're setting the tone for all the upcoming kids. They have to understand a family is developing it. We don't have it all figured out. It's going to look a little different, maybe even each time. It's definitely going to look a little different depending on who the kids are and what their ability to obey, respect, honor the family's desires are. Because you can get a young man coming in to want to court your daughter who's like, maybe he's had a past and he's very promiscuous. Or you can get a young girl who's just like, wants nothing to do with the family, let's say, and she's very much like thinks your family's nuts, but your son fell in love with her, right? So there's all kinds of nuances.
That was like my story with Jules.
No, you have a sweet wife.
Well, and by the way,
Oh, you go ahead. I have a long spiel here.
Oh, okay. I was just going to say, by the
get
way,
ready, crowd.
that's not just with dating, because I think any oldest child out there knows, like I am, that your parents,
example you were giving.
your parents change with each kid. I mean, there were things my little brother, and there were only 3 of us, but by the time he came around, he was getting away with that. I was like, what? Like, what's the deal? Like this was a huge deal for me.
Now let me stop you real quick. If you can, don't give it a specific example, but as you think it back, do you think your parents, like on that, some of your situations were just tired and it frustrates you and it's like, come on, mom, dad, you lost it? Or was it better parenting? Or was it a little bit of both maybe?
I think what it was more of the principle you talk about a lot, which is like choosing what hills to die on.
Okay.
Because when I was born, my parents were... Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad.
I'm filming this for his mom.
They were brand new parents,
awesome.
and they were going against the culture at this time. Like they decided to have me at home, which was very much against the culture. They decided to homeschool. They decided to do a lot of things differently than their families had done.
Yeah.
And that was intentional. And so they were rethinking literally everything. And so when I was born, it was like, this is what we're doing.
Were you vaccinated?
I was not.
I knew it.
And
You got
distracted.
that third leg growing out the back of your head. It explains everything.
All right. Getting distracted.
Keep going.
But what they had done is they had like taken all the stuff that all my cousins were doing. I mean, they said this isn't okay. So I didn't have my first soda until I was like,
amen.
11 or 12 because
That
my
actually
mom,
might be why you have some issues.
Yeah.
right.
You're Mormon.
And I always, I actually didn't care too much about it when I was little. I don't remember at least. But I remember my brother was drinking them when he was like 5 or 6. And I was like, what is this?
Yeah. Where's the fairness?
Yeah. But I, looking back, I'm like, I wish, you would have stuck to your guns on that. But because then I became a soda addict in college. Yeah.
Well, so who are you blaming?
Yeah, I was gonna say it's crazy you blame your mom and dad for that
deconstruction.
choice.
It's my fault.
Zane's
So-
mom, we're so sorry.
Here's
I
my.
That was good, Zane. Thank you.
Yeah.
So right now we're still kind of in the precursor, but I think the issue, like before your kids are dating, we're still talking about teaching, which we need to jump into when they're actually dating. But I think this is just a very emotional issue for parents, and so for most parents, it's easier to be completely hands off and say, you do you, and we're just here to support you, whatever, unless you're explicitly sinning, which is kind of a horrible take because I don't think it's actually showing your kids love. I think it's showing yourself comfort. But you, as a parent, your job here, you said with the word control has come up a couple times. And I think from the kid's perspective, all they're going to want to see is that you want to have control. When the reality is, like you've said this before, like, I wish I didn't have to have control. I wish I could just get out of here. I think the best way for you to think about this and for your kids, maybe you can teach this in your kids, is like, if, legendary football coaches, right? Like Andy Reid, like Nick Saban.
Yeah,
you
those
impressed,
guys.
I know.
Oh, yeah,
You impressed,
Nick.
I know, football references.
Hey, who was Dallas Cowboy coach?
Okay, anyway.
Years ago.
Tom
Landry.
Good
There you go.
job.
That's the
There you
only
go.
one
Like
I
Tom
know.
Landry.
Tom
I just know
Landry.
Nick Saban
Tom
'cause
Landry,
he's-
if you're listening out there, you're in heaven or hell, so you can't really
Anyway,
subscribe.
we're getting distracted. Like, so Nick Saban, right? So his job is to have control over his team in shaping them and moving them and in helping them be better to win games, right? That's his whole point. And he coached for years and years and years. And if you look at his coaching game year 1 and his coaching game year 15, they're
very
vastly different. Not because he became a worse coach. Ideally, he's actually getting better, but also the game has changed. And so I think each kid, think about how much society changes in the space of a year. Each kid is going to be a lot different. And so on that, if you win with one kid and do the exact same thing with the other kid, don't assume you're going to get a, quote, win there too. And then B, if you lose, like, reevaluate. There's a really good quote I love that says the best coaches are the ones who view victory and defeat exactly the same. Meaning, win or lose, you look at your whole game and think, what could I have done better? What did we do good? Encourage the goods, fix the bads. Every single game, win or lose. And I think you sort of have to have that mentality versus the mentality we see is either totally hands off or, like we talk a lot on the pendulum. The other side of the pendulum is we did this with kid 1. We're going to do this through kid 7. And it burnt the first 5 kids, and now we have really hard relationships with all those, but we're going to hope it works on 6 and 7. And, the definition of insane is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, where are you thinking, like, what's shifting here?
So as a dad who literally did this, right, and who feels this angst from the kids at times, just know, and older kids, Colt, Walker, Merrill, Asa, that's probably it. If you're listening, I love you guys, and I wish we had all figured out early, but we didn't.
Well, and it's
but don't, as a parent, you're going to catch flack either way. You're going to catch flack if you keep doing the same thing. And you're going to catch flack if you change it because you're thinking, we need to learn on this. So you're a parent. You're going to catch flack. You just got to say, God, what do you want from us? I literally was telling my wife this morning about a different situation because she was counseling some lady about some parenting stuff. And I said, I really appreciate you being honest with this gal. Mm-hmm. And like, you're doing a great job. And because it's like, you're responsible for today. Mm-hmm. Before God, what are your hands clean? Right.
Oh, yeah.
So as you're developing your strategy for your kids on what it's going to look like with dating and your family, it should be changing.
Well, and
not
it should
you
be
getting lazy though.
And you should be getting lazy, but also remember and be encouraged that if it's hard, it's sort of supposed to be, like, not in God's plan, right? But when a team, I keep going back to this dumb sports thing,
You love
which is
sports.
ironic because
an
if you
idol.
know me at all, I'm horrible at
That's
almost
really
every
true.
sport.
Yeah, you suck.
But anyway, you're so encouraging this morning.
Except
Jeez.
for Frisbee.
That's
Oh,
true. You're
that's
good at
debatable.
and you're good at cheering.
Okay, moving on. When
was.
the team loses,
He's a
it's
good
so
base.
funny. I watch a lot of our friends, their kids will go play sports, and we'll go watch a lot of their games to be encouraging. And man, when their team loses, whose fault is it every time?
Probably the other team or the coach or the
It's
ref.
always the coach
Yeah.
or the refs. Actually, it's the ref a lot, but like who gets the blame when a team has a losing record? Sometimes
coach.
rightfully so. It's always the coach. And who gets all the flack? It's always the coach. You could have had a player who played horribly, and it's like, well, he should have been coached better. And it's sort of the coach's job. I think when you sign up for that position, you sign up knowing I have responsibility for this team's wins or losses, even though I'm not actually even playing the game. I'm just an advisor. And so as a parent, you're going to catch all the flack and be encouraged because in a way that's how it's supposed to be. Like that's sort of your job in your kid's life is to be the coach. And I just think as you deal with this very emotional, tumultuous area, it's a good word there. I think a lot of parents get discouraged and go one way or the other. It's easier to have full control or it's easier to be totally hands off.
Yep.
And the reality is you have to find a balance. But the hard part about a balance, Jules and I were talking about this yesterday, is if you watch somebody walk a tightrope, they're never like steady. They're always one way and then they're always the other way and back and forth, back and forth. And that's just the reality of balance is you're always going to be swinging one way. So you have to be adaptable.
Can I make a comment real quick?
If it's real quick, because we have to move on to actually
It's
dating.
really quick.
Okay, I'm listening.
No, it's not. One of my kids was in a dating situation.
Got him.
And I heard this like comment made by one of the parents of one of the people my kids were interested in dating. I want you to think about this. So they said, they were basically saying, why are you trying to control your kids? I trust my kids.
Oh, this is a good one.
So I get it, and I trust my kids too. But my response back to to this particular child was, look, buddy, I trust you, yes, but I trust you that you're a human, right? And I know you're gonna have the same impulses, the same lack of wisdom, lack of experience that any human does at your age. And when you're vulnerable meaning you're emotionally bought into this person that you're falling in love with, which is amazing, right? You need guidance right now. And we trust you, yes, but we trust you to be a human, which means you still need help. You still need your mom and dad. So I think sometimes when we say I trust them, and I tell future men boys this all the time, that's just like my mom and dad haven't tried. They're not going to try anymore. They've given up. Like, I just want to be done. So I trust you. I raised you. Good luck. And it's like, well, maybe, again, there's not necessarily a Bible verse that says don't trust your kids.
Well, it's like going back to business. It's especially a lot of the dads, especially future men we talk to. We see a lot of dads that are very successful and very like high up in their businesses. And in what world would you take an 18-year-old and put full trust of like part of your business in their hands? Well, probably no world. You would always be overseeing it. You'd always be watching, and you would want them to learn, have experience. But you're never going to say, hey, go entertain this client who's worth 50% of our revenue all week, and I'm just going to trust you. You got this. So you don't trust them with that, but you would trust them with picking their own lifelong partner.
Yeah.
Who they're going to be with 24/7, for the rest of their life. That's just wild.
Yeah, I have another situation, right? And I love my mom and dad. They're amazing people. But like I remember in high school, there's no way. My dad had a beautiful 55 Chevy convertible. It was amazing. Gorgeous car. If a young random guy from my sister's high school class came up and said, hey, can I take your car out tonight? Heck no. But if that same young man came up and said, can I take your daughter out tonight? Sure. I don't want to offend my daughter, or I trust my daughter. It's like, wait a second. You have a car that has insurance, and if you wreck, you can get it replaced. I mean, it'd be horrible, but it's reality. Your daughter is your daughter. But it's like, that just sort of shows we just don't think necessarily. We think, I'll give blind trust to some kid I have no relationship with and I don't really know anything about, but I won't do that with my car.
Well, I think the blind trust is kind of the key there, because I think there's room to be able to trust your kids and give them freedom. So we're not saying like you should have these like hard restrictive boundaries with your kids in dating. I mean, there are parents who know their kids well and trust them and think, like my father-in-law with his youngest daughter who just got engaged. She's gotten to know him really well. They spent a lot of time in discipleship and on their relationship, and he trusts her because to the extent of he knows what her character is like. She's proven that over time. So she doesn't know this guy, but he doesn't know this guy super well, but he does know her. But that doesn't mean that he's not
Carte blanche and whatever they want to do.
Yeah, that he's not saying no to things. That's not him saying, or like just saying, all right, you go do your thing. It's not like and I'm never gonna like ask about it. I'm never gonna follow up on it. I'm never gonna like be involved. That's not the kind of that's a foolish, I think, version of trust. It's like that blind trust. It's like, well, but you don't know that guy, and you don't know what maybe. I mean, you know the character of your child, but you don't know if there's something maybe they're hiding or they're struggling with that could come out through this process. So you have to be involved. You have to be intentional. It doesn't mean you can't, give them freedom.
No, keep in mind, no promises are guaranteed here. You just want to be clean hands again and good stewards. Yes, us.
So
please.
We will. You are a lot this morning.
I know, feisty.
Man, goodness gracious. Okay, so we're gonna jump into how do you disciple your kids in the actual relationship. But let me read this. This is a study that came out last year, by the Social Psychology and Personality Science. On average, and they did this over it was somewhere between 15 and 20 years. On average, it took about 4.18 years for the emotional attachment to an ex-partner to be halfway dissolved. For the typical person, the bond to an ex completely faded away around 8 years, but for some, it takes even longer.
When you say partner, you mean like sexual partner? Or
it doesn't describe it, but I would assume, right?
Yeah.
And one of the funniest, I think it's funny, comments on the top of this was, breaking news, humans are meant for monogamy and getting broken more and more with each serious relationship failing. Now that a study says so, we can finally believe it.
Rather than just trusting the word of God.
Rather than just trusting the design. But so the point there being, that's sort of what you're trying to prevent your kids from. And that's the society they're dating in, regardless of how much you might be in like a Christian bubble, hopefully, right? That's sort of nice. You're being affected. Everybody's being affected by the overall society. So when your kid is, so they've done all the right things. They're ready to provide, or they're ready to be provided for. They have the maturity level required of them to be in a serious relationship. Now they're in a serious relationship, right? You've talked to the kid, a boy comes and asks to take your daughter out. You have that conversation. When your kids are actually in dating relationships, what does discipleship look like practically on a week-by-week basis?
Yeah. So
questions you should be asking them, stuff like that.
Yep. So again, there's no right way, but
there are wrong ways.
Yeah, doing nothing is, I say, a huge wrong way. But like with the guys that have come sniffing around for our girls, right? It's like, I want to know that you're.
Can we just say the guys coming asking our girls
with an
out
interest,
instead of sniffing around?
You like
those dogs?
Yeah,
that's right.
Anyway,
yeah, you don't want to be the guy that says, "Oh, I'm loading I'm cleaning my shotgun on the porch, and I'll be up when you guys get home." It's like, no, you won't. You're going to bed. You're not going to do your job. Just do your job. It's easier than having a shotgun on the porch.
I love that song, by the way.
Yeah, but all it means is like, okay, so. With the boy, like we had a friend named Kyle Unruh who kind of turned me on to this idea. I was like, you know what? That's a great idea. His requirement for somebody wanting to date one of his daughters was, we're going to start meeting either every week or every other week for discipleship, you and I, because he wants to get to know this kid.
Doesn't he?
Who?
Philip.
Oh, I think so. Yeah, Philip Rack. Yeah, good job, Dr. Rack, if you're listening. I'm glad Silas calls you Philip instead of Doctor.
Sorry, Doctor.
There you go. But
Dr.
it's like
Phil.
Ooh. It's true. The reality is, you're like, you want to get to know this kid. And if he's thinking, I don't want to meet with your dad. I don't need to do that. I just want to date you. That's a great sign.
Great answer.
Wrong guy. It's like, so meet with the dad. Big deal. And if your meeting is just you're getting to know him a little bit, you feel awkward, and it's like you're not sure what to say, keep doing it.
Yeah.
It'll start working itself out. You get to know this kid. You'll start building trust. And then when they're wanting to do activities together or different things, you're just thinking, okay, is there accountability built into this idea of what they're doing for their date, right? And you're asking them each week or every other week, whatever, right? What are you learning? Who are you growing through? Whatever. One of the young men that was dating one of my daughters, one of the things I was telling him recently was, I'm really glad that you've got involved with other men in our community, in our circle, that you're held accountable to, and it's not just me, right? Because I don't really want all of that, because then it feels like dad's controlling it.
Yeah.
And it's like, I have a say in this. And he and I do meet regularly, but it's like, I know other men are meeting with him as well. And he cares about his spiritual life. And I'm like, okay, you definitely don't have everything figured out. And you're definitely not the, this, wow, look at this amazing option. It's like, you're just a person like everybody else. And you got some quirks and you got some great things. It's a good mix, like we were as well. But there's intentionality. So I think it's a big part of it. So you're meeting with them, you're asking
And real
questions.
quick, I think a lot of people, just like the idea of weekly discipleship with your own kids, for a lot of people, that's a stretch. So to think weekly discipleship with someone else's kid that's dating my daughter, this is weird.
It is.
I think just ask yourself,
Versus what?
what's the alternative, which is nothing. B, I like to, when Jules and I have a situation where we're questioning something, we always ask, what's the worst thing that happens? So the worst thing that happens is maybe your daughter ends up marrying this guy, and now you guys actually have a real relationship that you've kindled over the past year or two. So now you have a son-in-law who's one of your friends and who trusts you and you trust them. Or B, when your daughter says, what do you think of him? You actually have a real answer. It's not I don't know. When he was over here and having dinner the other night, we didn't really talk about, anything vulnerable. And if your whole point with the shotgun is to scare him, well, nothing scares a man more than the thought of being emotionally vulnerable with another man. So, I mean,
that's a better shotgun.
That is
So-
facts. That is facts.
Let that be one of the hot outtakes. Take that for a short. That's good.
I mean, truly, though.
Oh, no, I agree. Well, I remember.
I'll take the shotgun every day of the week. You want to ask me what my personal struggles are, I'm going to run.
I remember going in the garage when I was wanting to marry Lori. I remember this yesterday. Going in the garage, my dad was working at the workbench. And Dad, if you're listening, you can't hear anyway. He's deaf. Dad, I love you. Turn it up. But I remember asking him, his thoughts on Lori. And I remember what he said was, have you prayed about it? If you feel good before God, great. And I'm like, okay, that's good. But he really knew nothing.
That's a true but unhelpful answer.
Yeah, and it's like, come on, man, know the situation a little bit. And granted, I didn't want to give him any information. If he'd have wanted to meet, I probably would have not done it or bulked at it because I was a punk. But it's but I think that's the point. You're in the middle of raising your kids. If you're listening to this, you're wanting ideas. So again, it always goes back to that D word, right? Discipleship. And
What is
Silas, what you said?
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
It's a stretch already to disciple your own kids. This is your kid. Or
Yeah.
it's going to be. And they're going to be the parents of your grandkids. So, yeah, get to know them. I mean, spend the time now.
And even if they break up, it's like, what's like you spent time hopefully investing in another young boy who come away from this learning from you and being mentored by you. Like, good. you know, like there's not a lot of losses in this situation other than your own time, which in a way, like I get, we're all busy, but get over yourself. Like,
Yeah, and
you
when
should
they
be
get
doing this
married-
regularly anyway.
Yeah, and when they get married, it's like they really are out of your house. I had a dad who once thought, he told his daughter that, we're going to be very controlling parents. I'm like, hey, let me tell you something. When my kids leave, I'm not a controlling parent because honestly, my job's done. And I get to like say, hey, hands off now, baby. I'll get involved as much as you want me to. You know this. But it's like, but when they're under your roof, when you're still like responsible before God for their, right, for their actions or whatever, sort of, then let your influence show.
Yeah.
Do your job. Don't be afraid to do your job.
And again, like I just love, I mean, if you, again, sorry, I keep going back to this, but if you've done that discipleship and that couple, because what young couple in their first year of marriage gets it figured out.
Yeah.
I've never met one. And then we encountered a million fights and a million problems that were hard to get through. And if you've sat there and discipled this kid, guess who he's probably going to go to? He's probably going to go to you. You know, he's probably going to come, and that's what you want. But you want to have that relationship be real. Otherwise, they come over for dinner. They're actually really struggling, but they're not really going to talk to you because that's awkward and weird, and he doesn't really know you. And he's like, well, I don't want to like air my issues in front of your dad and your mom, right? Versus you've built up this relationship of trust for the past year. I just think it creates a way better scenario for everybody.
Well, understand though, they're still human.
Oh yeah,
Right. So if you're listening and
No,
you're
this
really
gets
trying
it
this
perfect.
and you get all kinds of pushback, it's okay
Yeah.
because you're still dealing with a human being and they may not want you involved.
And after they get married, yeah, they might be like,
We're
peace.
done.
That's
Yeah.
okay. Leave and cleave. What about when when your son is dating a girl? What do you do there? Does the mom do discipleship? Because obviously, the dad's
Yeah, I
like,
was just
well, I'm going to
thinking
meet
about
with
that.
your girlfriend.
Right. Yeah. So we've been sort of blessed with some of the older siblings who they've taken some of these younger girls, right? And they like your wife did this with Carver's wife. And it's like they're meeting with them. They're friends
Yeah.
with them. They're sort of like, because again, it's definitely not the dad's job. I would just be very intentional with your son, right? I kind of don't, I definitely care about the girl, but I'm asking my son the hard questions of like, that I think you're going to like either make him run from this girl or they'll marry him. If your wife can get
And when you
involved,
say, real quick, when you say, because you're right, when your son's dating a girl, her dad is sort of like,
he should be doing his job.
he kind of gets, say. But when you're talking to your son, you say, I'm asking the questions. You're asking the questions to help your kid realize, is this like we talked about earlier, metaphor, like an equally yoked relationship?
Right.
Is this what you really want for the rest of your life? But keep going. I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, if your wife can get involved, that would be amazing. But it's like, I don't think it's going to happen very often. I think this is mainly a guy thing. And I remember telling like Walker when he was dating Julia, it's like her dad was doing his job. He was like, so I'm like, okay, Walker, I'm done in a sense. Now he lived far away anyway, but we were still, communicating on, through the phone and stuff. But I'm like, if that dad's doing his job, I can bow out. Walker already knows the parameters of what, a Christian life should look like, faithful, committed to the Lord should look like in the midst of all these temptations. And I'm trusting her dad to limit those temptations for the two of them until they're married, right? And I think he did. And it's like, that's awesome. When the dad isn't doing his job with a girl and your son is involved with her, you're sort of at the mercy of like whatever your son's willing to give you, I think, right? And then however much control you have based on what you're subsidizing in their life. I mean, if he's living in your house, you can kind of have all the control you want. If he's not, it's just whatever he wants to give you. And you're at the friendship level now, not father or son per se, like kids.
Yeah.
It's more like coaching friendship level.
The authority isn't there necessarily.
Yeah.
Zane, things to add?
Or take away.
Well, what I was thinking was, with like the girl side of things, I think there can be like a space for mentorship, like making sure that she's actually connected, because that's one thing that I've talked to several guys about is, I know like that have like their own discipleship kind of set up in their life. I'm like, well, who's like talking to her? It doesn't have to be mom or even like somebody in the family, but is there somebody that's actually like mentoring her, because I think that shows who that person is too. You know,
What
are
if
they
it's not?
tuned in?
What would you suggest to the girl or to your son? Because she's a neat girl, let's say, and you see her and she's just sort of like, she's solo. No, her parents aren't necessarily doing their job. She doesn't have any idea what discipleship even means, and there's nobody in her life. What do you tell your son?
Well,
Run.
I don't know what I would tell my son. I know what I've told other guys, and I've told them because this has happened. Because it's not a normal thing, even in Christian culture, really, to
disciple.
Yeah, to have like a regular discipleship, like mentor person in your life. And it seems even more rare for girls for some reason. It seems like guys like now are more about it, but girls still aren't as on board with it.
Seeing the need, maybe.
Yeah. But what I've told them is like, you should talk to them about it. You should ask them if there's somebody in their life that they could like not be like run necessarily. I mean, that could be a sign that they're not as spiritually mature as you, and maybe it wouldn't be a good fit or wanting input. But maybe no one's ever pointed it out to her before or talked to her about it. So just ask them. And if they're open to it and they're willing to, that's a great sign. Like they're wanting to grow. They're humble enough to go and reach out. And I'd encourage them to people in your church or your community.
It's pretty like, it's also, I think a thing that comes up a lot, especially, and I think this is more often with girls, is a lot of times they don't want to ask someone because it's like, well, I don't want to be a bug on them, or they're always busy, or like they can't really mentor me because they probably don't have time. And my wife has said that before because I've encouraged her, like, hey, you should go talk to this person because they'd be a great one to like, get together with once a month or whatever. And she's like, well, they're always super busy. And I always tell her, I'm like, remember when so-and-so came to you and asked, like, hey, would you meet with me like every so often and like hold me accountable or like go through this book? I'm like, how does that make you feel? And she's like, amazing. It makes me feel cool. It makes me feel like wanted and like respected and honored. And I'm like, yeah, so it's going to make them feel exactly the same way. Like you have a super busy life. Like you have, at this time it was like 8-month-old twins. You're still trying to figure out how to be a wife and a mom. Like you're very busy, but it's still like you can make that time. And I think as a dad in this situation, you can also be looking, there's probably older women at your church you can trust. Your wife, again, she might be, if your son's dating a girl, she might be willing to meet with his mom. It could be a little bit weird. For some reason, the stigma around mother-in-laws is always, it's a stigma.
Sad. Yeah, it's
right?
It's a bad one.
Yeah, but it's like, but I'm sure your wife would, and especially if the girl's willing, that'd be awesome. Like take advantage of that. Go do it. And it's kind of funny. There's a stigma, but I feel like oftentimes with moms, it's like they'll side with the girl before they'll side with their son, especially pre-marriage.
Especially if they know their son.
Yeah,
unless they're a mama's boy.
Well, even then, I mean,
that's true. My mom would definitely not have sided with
I was gonna say there's some mama's
that's
boys out
Granny,
there.
listening. I love you.
But also on that, Titus 2:3 says, older women likewise are to be reverent in behavior, not slanderous or slaves to much wine. They are to teach what is good, and so train the young women to love their husbands and children, to be self-controlled, pure, working at home, kind and submissive to their own husbands. So there's a command in Scripture for older women to be discipling younger women on how they should live.
Good.
So that's the first thing we've said this whole podcast, that's actually biblical.
There you go.
That's not our opinion.
I just read straight from
so
Paul
obey.
Zane, so we've got probably like 5-10 minutes here. So real quick, you just got married 8 months ago now, 7 months?
More than that.
7.5.
Oh.
Ooh, I was
more than that.
Right on the dot.
Good job, Silas.
It was my job. I was in the wedding. I was the best man, if anybody was wondering.
No, Zane was the best man. She married him.
Well, anyway.
Get it?
Yes, I get it. I was the second best man.
You were.
So, what were the questions, just to sort of jump to the end, because this is a huge subject. So if you have questions, email us or ask them on the school group, where you'll get a lot of other opinions, which will be great.
Oh, yeah.
But, Zane, what were some of the questions you were asking your mentors and your mentors were asking you as you came to that final step of, I think I'm going to ask this girl to marry me? What were give us 2 or 3 of the big heavy hitters you needed to have done before you asked that question?
Well, I think one of the big ones was, am I really ready for this? Like, is this really what I want? Because at least for me, I'm not going to say this is every guy, but for me, I grew up with this assumption that I was going to get married and that was like the main goal in life. And so throughout my discipleship time as a young man, that was a question I kept getting anytime I would ever express interest in a girl. Is like, why do you want this? You know, is it just because you're trying to, you know, fulfill this expectation that you've had? Because that's not really a great reason.
No. Believe it or not.
Yeah. So there's that question. And then the question that was like really hard for me at first, and now it's like super easy for me to answer, was why do you like her? Like, why is she the one? And I say the one, I don't mean, I'm not one of those people who believe there's only one out there that could ever like be your wife or your husband.
Soulmate.
Yeah, your soulmate.
I believe in a soulmate.
I don't.
Okay.
But
I just think
It's spelled SOLE, that you walk with them. It's a soul, like the sole of your foot. That's actually
that's a podcast title. I like
that's not Gary. No, it is Gary Thomas. That's Sacred Marriage. Yeah,
you walk with them.
Anyway,
Yeah.
keep going, James.
Okay,
I
I do like
rudely
that.
interrupted.
That's cool.
Keep going.
It was good.
But, you know, it was hard to answer that first because of all the emotions and, you know, you are battling those ulterior motives in dating somebody. So being able to answer that and it be a good answer and it actually be something that would be convincing to should be convincing to yourself and others that this is good. That was a question that was good. And then I don't know. I think of those two questions.
When I watched you get married, right? I knew that, you know, you and I had been meeting. You were meeting with at least 5 or 6 other people, probably more than that. You have a lot of like accountability in your little community. There's so much peace in that of knowing, okay, if you're thinking you're for real with this girl, I know all your other friends, all your other relationships are asking questions, you know, poking holes in the idea of, are you ready for marriage? Right? When you guys pulled the trigger, it's like total confidence. You walk through that door of, you know, one flesh union. Pretty awesome. So with your children, as much as we can, if we keep them in community, right? If we keep them, you know, meeting with other believers, having these conversations with their friends, right? And keep the focus on eternity kind of things, right? What matters for the long run. So much more confidence when they are ready to pull that trigger. Like you mentioned Mike at the beginning of this podcast, who's getting married right now. Or pretty soon.
Right now.
Today.
Thought I would have been invited.
But it's cool because we know, okay, he has really been put through the ringer on, are you ready for marriage?
Yeah.
And no one's ever ready for marriage. And their marriage can be extremely tough. But it's like, but we all know he's not going into this like willy-nilly or on some emotional high. It's like it's been thought through. And that's super, super encouraging as a parent to think, okay, and it can be easy, no guarantees, but we got clean hands in this.
Yeah. So we sort of have to wrap up here. But again, massive topic. So for further discussion, we've got 3 books here. So first, I'm going to put these on camera. Not Yet Married, The Pursuit of Joy in Singleness and Dating. Probably the best book to read before your kids even start to think about dating. Like probably 16 years old-ish?
Yeah, 16, 17. It's
around there.
It's a tough book in some ways.
Again, the whole first half isn't even about dating. It's just about where you at with Christ. Yep. So that's a great one. I actually don't have the book I'm looking for, but Sacred Marriage is a good one to read before they get married and before they start dating. And then the one before this is The Sacred Search. And Gary Thomas, he just really challenges, why are you wanting to get married? So the subtitle of Sacred Marriage is, what if God designed marriage to make us holy more than to make us happy? And so he really challenges, why are you wanting to pursue a girl? So
that's a great book to be discipling somebody with.
Great.
Like man on man. It's really good.
Both of these,
comes with questions.
technically all 3 of these, Not Yet Married, Sacred Marriage, and The Sacred Search are fantastic because they're very breakable down into, they're very, I can't even talk. You can break them down very easily. I think.
He has questions in there.
No, he doesn't. Some of them have, they have workbooks though. Oh no, yeah. In the back, they have questions to go over every single chapter. So it's a great one because you don't have to come up with questions.
Yep.
And then last one, after your kid gets married, you should read Boundaries. Dad, you should read this one. Yeah, I figured you wouldn't like this one.
Like a Bible.
This is you're so bad.
Don't comment in the section below.
Boundaries is a great book to read on if you're a parent, to help learn when your kid goes off and gets married, how can you approach that relationship in a loving, influential way that doesn't make them feel like mom and dad just want to keep controlling us even though we have our own house and we're married. So all that being said, thank you for listening. If you're still here, please like, share, leave us a comment. You can comment what your favorite thing was we talked about. You can say your hot take. You can say what you think we got wrong, because heaven knows there's probably a lot of that.
But if you say what we got wrong, if you could give some structure to that, so we can figure out something we need to be thinking about.
Or ask a question in the comments, because we love responding to questions. If you haven't joined the school community yet, go join the school community, because it's where a lot of like-minded parents like you hopefully are in. A lot of them that are us. You get more opinions, more thoughts, more values.
Book review?
Book reviews are about to start happening. So Dad, next week, we'll be going through books just like this one to sort of help model what it looks like for you to go through them with your kids, and for you to learn from some of these books that we learned a lot of stuff from as well. And let's see what else. If you have any questions, you can email them.
Email?
What is wrong with me? I might be having a stroke.
I hope not.
Email them to us at questions@futurefamiliesmedia.com. Other than that, we will see you next week. Come back. We'll be talking about
stuff.
Yes. Worship. I think we're talking about worship next
Family
week.
worship.
All right. Bye.